New Zealand authorities are working to identify all the victims of last week's fatal shooting. And new reports say the U.S. military is developing plans to keep up 1,000 troops in Syria, but the report is being refuted. The new project coming to Pikeville is hoping to put coal miners back to work. I'll tell you all about it.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Connor James. The time is about 6:31. Let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your forecast this morning. Brandon, again, a little bit of a cooler morning. Not too bad. Not too bad
for this time of the year, especially.
More coffee.
Exactly. Listen, let the coffee flow this morning, Monday morning, so you'll need a little extra on that drive because it's a little bit chilly this morning. And, of course, the Monday struggle bus is on the road this morning. Let's take a look at the conditions across the area. UVA-wise, things are pretty quiet here as we go past 6:30. A little bit of cloud cover starting to move in the overnight hours early this morning. Buffalo Mountain also pretty quiet as we start the day. Temperatures 30 Moorhead to 37 down in Middlesboro, so a bit of a range there this morning depending on where you are. Danville in the 20s right now. 33 to about 49. That's the temperature range today. Could be a little bit of frost on those cars this morning, so give yourself a couple of extra minutes to get out there and scrape those off or warm the cars up. I'll have the rest of the forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Connor?
All right, thanks, Brandon. New Zealand authorities are working to identify all of the victims of last week's fatal shooting. Islamic tradition says people should be laid to rest as soon as possible after death. John Lordick reports.
New Zealand still in shock after Friday's fatal shootings.
You never wake up and think something like this would happen on your own doorstep.
Funerals and vigils were held across the country this weekend. Survivors, meanwhile, attempt to cope with living through a terrifying experience.
I just can't stop thinking about it, getting those flashbacks, and it's one of those experiences which I wish no one ever encounters.
28-year-old Australian Brenton Tarrant is charged with murder. Additional charges are expected later.
We're so sorry for all the families over there, for the dead and the injured. Yeah, we just can't think nothing else.
The Prime Minister says authorities hope to have all the bodies returned to their families by Wednesday. And right now, the focus is on increased security.
While mosques are in active use, there will be a police presence outside. While they are closed, the public will remain in the vicinity.
Dozens were also injured in the incident and are hospitalized. Some of them have recovered enough to be released. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Prime Minister Ardern says the government of New Zealand has agreed in principle to make its gun laws more tough, and Police Commissioner has confirmed that there was only one attacker responsible for this horrendous event. Although Wall Street Journal reports the U.S. military is developing plans to keep up to 1,000 troops in Syria. That's despite President Trump's December order for a rapid withdrawal from the U.S. military from the nation. But a top U.S. general is refuting the Wall Street Journal's report. The chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Joseph Dunford, called it factually incorrect. Thousands mourned the Ethiopian plane crash victims on Sunday, accompanying 17 empty caskets draped in the national flag through the streets of the capital. The service came one day after officials began delivering bags of earth to family members of the 157 victims of the crash instead of the remains of their loved ones, because the identification process is expected to take such a long time. And preliminary data recovered from the black boxes from last week's Ethiopian Airlines crash has similarities to October's fatal Lion Air crash. Similarities between the two incidents led aviation authorities around the world to ban the use of the 737 MAX 8. The similarities would be subject to further investigation. Ethiopian Airlines CEO said the pilot had flight control problems. And we now know the name of a pregnant woman who died after being found with gunshot wounds in Whitley County. Kentucky State Police tell us Jerry Johnson was pronounced dead at the Baptist held in Corbin Saturday evening. Doctors were able to deliver her baby, and it is in critical condition. We're still waiting on the results of an autopsy. We do not have any further information about her death at this time. We will continue updating this story on air and online at WYMT.com. And crime scene investigators carefully gathering evidence for hours inside the home of 24-year-old Anthony Comello. Police say the construction worker of Endingville gunned down a reputed mafia head, Frankie Boy Cali, Wednesday night. And sources say it all is because he had a crush on Cali's niece, a college student from Brooklyn, but the boss did not approve. And a chemical fire has Texas authorities issuing a shelter-in-place order for the entire city of Deer Park. Officials say a tanker fire at the Intercontinental Tank Company, Deer Park, is out of control. People who live nearby are being told to stay inside. It is unclear what caused the fire, but it comes one day after the Exxon plant fire in Baytown, another fuel facility in the area. And 2 people in Los Angeles were hurt when a 9,000-gallon tanker caught fire and exploded. More than 72 firefighters worked for hours Sunday to get the fire under control. Officials say the tanker has been leaking fuel when it somehow ignited. Thick, dark smoke could be seen for miles. Several fire departments arrived to help, including hazmat crews. And Governor Matt Bevin will spend this week either vetoing bills or signing them into law. A big focus this session is the Republican-controlled legislature. Well, it was abortion last week. 3 pro-life bills got the final okay from lawmakers. Now 2 of them are blocked after a judge's federal ruling.
Certainly speaks volumes about their priorities and the way in which they frankly don't care whether they're following the law or not. They simply want to be able to push their ideology.
Lawmakers will return to Frankfort March 28th for the last day of the legislative session. And last night's episode of 60 Minutes featured a familiar company, AppHarvest, a high-tech agricultural company. AppHarvest was originally going to base its operations in Pike County, but now they plan to be based near Moorhead. Reporters spent a week in eastern Kentucky to learn about the company as part of a segment on the Revolution's rise of the Rest Seed Fund, which invested in AppHarvest. The fund is intended to encourage venture capitalist investment in Middle America. And U.S. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is making a couple of stops in the Bluegrass to talk about drug addiction. The senator will hold conferences at each site talking about the legislative efforts in combating the opioid epidemic. Those stops include one at the Volunteers of America Freedom House in Louisville and another in Kenton County Detention Center. Jim Carroll, a representative with the Office of National Drug Control Policy, will join McConnell. And a new project coming to Pikeville is hoping to put coal miners back to work. A solar panel farm would create jobs for 200 construction workers and 50 permanent jobs. WYMT's Marianne Fletcher has the details.
A project 3 years in the making.
Was the biggest renewable project ever in Appalachia.
Toyota recently announced their partnership with a 700-acre solar panel farm in Pike County. RH Group is one company spearheading the project.
The electricity will be generated and will go on the PJM, which is the wholesale power for the entire East Coast. Services about 65 million people.
Vice President Ryan Johns says this is a game changer for the region.
For one, we've never had renewable energy as an option.
While putting Eastern Kentucky on the map for new jobs.
It's going to give Kentucky a chance to compete for the projects like an Apple and Amazon, Facebook, Google.
Project co-developer Adam Edlin says the best part of this project is simple.
And the best part is that we will create new jobs for out-of-work coal miners.
While utilizing the skills they already have.
Coal miners are the best trained workers in the world. These are people who show up for work every day. They are used to working in a team. They are highly trained.
After the failure of recent projects, Edlin ensures this project is set in stone.
This project is going to happen, and we strongly believe that people need to keep their word, and we intend to do that here.
Diversifying the region's economy.
It will take around a year and a half to build the around 500,000 panel farm. Now let's check in with Brandon Robinson for a look at your weather. Brandon?
Yeah, things are fairly quiet, Connor, still across the region this morning. As we take a look outside the WYMT studios here in Hazard, quiet, a little bit of a dark. It's not as daylight as it used to be when before the time changed anyway. Whitesburg still quiet this morning, but getting closer to getting daylight in here around 7:40 or so. Temperatures still chilly, 30 in Moorhead, 33 Jackson, Hazard, Pikeville, Prestonsburg, and Harlan now. Some warmer spots rather down toward Middlesboro and Jacksboro. That's the warmest spots in the region at 37. Day planner. Sunshine mixed with a few clouds. We'll climb close to 50 this afternoon, but again, it's going to be one of those days we're going to continue to watch to see exactly how high the mercury will go. Connor?
Thanks, Brandon. We will have stories trending on WYMT.com next. Thank you for joining us on Mountain News this morning. And one town in New York has the luck of the Irish as they set a new world record this past weekend. We'll show you what they did.